ये अनम्यूट करके स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं सर, पारेख सर, शिवानंद सर। अनम्यूट करके स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं।
शुरू करें सर। स्वामी जी शुरू करें।
Yes. Namaste everybody. We have gathered again this Thursday evening to think on the proposed topic, psychological simplicity. I hope I am audible. Everybody is able to hear me well.
Yeah.
Good. Good. So we have the topic, psychological simplicity. Somebody may wonder why two words, we could have called it just simplicity. We would say, if we had called it just simplicity, not all would have understood the specific nature of what we are trying to talk about. For to a lot of people, simplicity means external simplicity, physical simplicity. Somebody wears very simple dress, though he is very rich, then we say how simple he is. And the reference is to the simple dress. In a inexpensive car he goes around. He very often drives by himself, does not keep a driver. Then we say, look at him, how simple he is, though he is so rich. Do you know he travels by economy flight ticket? He doesn't go by business class. See how simple he is. And then about food, about what he purchases, and so many external aspects. Mahatma Gandhi set certain high standards of external simplicity. When he saw the abject poverty in India, where a lot of people during his travels were seen almost half naked, he then decided, in my service to this country, I am not going to wear coat and boot, which I wore in England, in South Africa before coming back here. Rest of my life I am going to wear just two pieces of white cloth. Now, with all appreciation for his decision in a certain context, we, however, say that that physical simplicity of using just two pieces of cloth, having very little variety in one's wardrobe, and so on, is not everything. That doesn't guarantee that someone is a truly good human being. In the case of M.K. Gandhi, to a certain extent, there was great maturity in the psychological domain also. I'm saying to a great extent, and I'm fully aware that there is some debate on the inner simplicity of M.K. Gandhi. We will not go into it, but some of you may know that Krishnaji himself had commented that Gandhi, in a certain sense, was a violent person. That is a statement that would, ruffle a lot of feathers. And why Krishnaji said there was violence in Gandhi? You and I know Gandhi as somebody who stood for non-violence all his life, but Krishnaji made a penetrating statement that there was violence in Gandhi, and he made very, very profound statements on what true non-violence is. But for today's topic, we would say Gandhi's external simplicity is indeed a shining example of what external physical simplicity can be. About psychological simplicity, we do not take Gandhi as an example. Perhaps we should not take anyone as an example. We should not take anybody as a role model for inner simplicity, because we don't know how that lady or man was inside. So we added this adjective, psychological simplicity. And we will examine a little bit about psychological simplicity. Somebody may be coated, booted, suited. Somebody may be driving around in a Mercedes or BMW car. Somebody may be all the time flying in business class tickets on flights. Somebody might be wearing expensive dress. As many of you know, Krishnaji was very fond of branded dress and branded shoes and branded hat and branded shirts and so on, especially during a certain phase of his life in England. He really enjoyed traveling in very fast, expensive cars and so on. Now, that does not make Krishnaji someone with psychological complications. Psychological simplicity can coexist with physical luxury. Someone can be, to pick just one example from several things I said, someone could be traveling in a Mercedes car and yet be extremely simple in psychological terms. So, at the outset, physical simplicity and psychological simplicity are two different things. Today we have something called digital algebra. It is also called Boolean algebra. You know how the world has gone digital, 0 or 1, binary. So there we have a way of saying, if there are two parameters, like in this evening's case, psychological simplicity is one parameter, physical simplicity or external simplicity is a second parameter. In this Boolean algebra's language, somebody might be lacking in both psychological and physical simplicity, you know, or somebody might be in both areas of physical and psychological simplicity excellent. Then there is a third category. Somebody is physically very simple but psychologically very complex. And the fourth variety, somebody is psychologically simple but physically looks very aristocratic and this and that. So in Boolean algebra, having mentioned that, we have a way of saying there are four possibilities: 0, 0, 0, 1, 1, 0, and 1, 1. So 0, 0 is you have a lady or man who is very boisterous, flamboyant, showy, and the very physical appearance makes you look at her or him as, ooh, must be a very rich person. Look at the diamonds that he is wearing or whatever. And then in addition, very soon you find that this person has so much of ego, so much of image consciousness, so much of demand he makes for being respected, being honored, being given the seat first on the dais, being praised, etc. Or by mistake, if you insult him, you find that after 5 years also he remembers that you had insulted him on that day in 2016. Then that is called psychological complexity. So you can imagine now all the four possibilities: 00011011. On one extreme, 1 1. Someone is psychologically also simple, physically also simple. Those who admired Gandhi in and out, those who became Gandhians, those who today also hold Mahatma Gandhi in very high esteem, imagined that Gandhi was not only simple outside but also was totally simple inside. When I was a college student, I believed so. And for there were a couple of years where I was a great admirer of Gandhi, though my own life was not either simple outside or inside. It was okay. But I was a great admirer, almost devotee of Gandhi. And that was partly because I read some literature, including some of you surely have read that. I read from cover to cover the book called The Freedom at Midnight by Larry Collins and Dominique Lapierre, two French authors. That book, Freedom at Midnight, apart from describing the journey to freedom of India, gave a lot of details of this Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, and I was thrown off my, off the ground by that book. But later on, it waned off. I respect Gandhi, but I know that he had certain problems in his psychology. So I do not regard him as a Sthita Prajna or Gunatita or an enlightened man, etc. But quickly, I want to tell you once more that we are not in a search of any enlightened man or woman now. We are not in search of any role model. However, to make matters a little easier, I indulged in giving an example of some particular person. These particular persons don't help us much. What can help us is being aware of the way our mind works. To imagine Hitler must have had such thoughts, Gandhi might have had such thoughts, N.R. Narayana Murthy of Infosys might have had such thoughts, and Ratan Tata perhaps has such thoughts and emotions, is all imagination. Who knows what kinds of thoughts and emotions they really have? We have actually, we don't have that intelligence to know their inner workings. Therefore, we say, let us put aside all these Lincoln and Teresa, Gandhi and Ratan Tata, or whoever. Put them all aside and take a look at life. Now, without making my lecture a very long one, now I will say something about what psychological simplicity really is. Psychological simplicity, irrespective of whether you are wearing expensive dress or simplest dress, whether you travel in a BMW or a Maruti Zen or 800 or something, irrespective of that, that is out of this scene now. We are examining directly the psychological domain. Somebody who wants to dominate, somebody who wants to control others, does not have psychological simplicity. Somebody who allows himself to be dominated, not just allows, sometimes wants to be dominated. Krishnamurti was so angry with people who want to be led in the religious domains, who follow some guru and their own thinking, their own intelligence as though takes a back seat. Therefore, in that context, the related literature also quotes a certain European philosopher known as, I guess, Albert Camus. Camus spelled as Camus. Alfred Camus, maybe. Camus, that is for sure. Camus. So Camus had made a statement. Even in Indian universities, people do research on Camus and get PhD also even today. So Camus, like so many other Western philosophers or writers, is a well-known figure. And Camus had made a statement: "Don't follow me. I may not lead you. Don't try to lead me. I may not follow you. But if you want to walk together with me, let's do that." And Krishnaji, I don't know whether he ever quoted Camus or not, but Krishnaji always spoke in that spirit. So, can we also be psychologically simple, neither selling our head to somebody? Oh, I just follow him, whatever he says, I will do, whatever she says, I will do. If she, my guru, asks me to jump into a well, I will jump into the well, and so on. That is one extreme. And another is saying, I don't listen to anybody. Nobody needs to tell me where to go. I know where my life is going. I don't need any guidance, some kind of arrogance. I'm dramatizing a little bit, excuse me. But all that is not psychological simplicity. While you do not really follow anyone, you at the same time are ready to learn from anyone. You neither think of yourself as somebody superior to others, nor think of yourself as inferior to anybody. There are things that we may learn from even a little child, even somebody who is in certain other context very junior to us. If we have an open mind, that would be the main hallmark of psychological simplicity. All of you have heard of Vivekananda. His guru was Ramakrishna, and I'm sure all of you know who Ramakrishna's wife was. She was called Sharada Devi. And when she was very young, maybe 8 or 10-year-old, marriage was done. But I guess when she was some 14-year-old, her parents said, now you must go to your husband's house. And can you believe? They sent a 14-year-old girl, Sharada, all alone from her own village called Jairambati to the village of Sri Ramakrishna, known as Gadadhar Chatterjee. And Sri Ramakrishna's village was, as may some of you know, Kamarpukur. So Jairambati to Kamarpukur, this 14-year-old girl is going alone and she passes through a jungle. And in that jungle, there was a Daku, maybe Daku Mangal Singh or whatever name. The Dhaku had killed many and troubled many, robbed them of their jewelry, their money, their all that. And the Dhaku suddenly appears before this young girl who did have some jewelry on her, maybe a little gold necklace. And in a frightening form, he says to her, "Stop, give me all that you have," etc. But now, in childlike innocence, and she was indeed a child, Sharada says to that Daku, as though she had not heard what he had said, as though she had not noticed his frightening face, as though she was not aware of anything. She just says to him with loving, tone, "Uncle, uncle, can you tell me what is the correct way to go to Kamarpukur?" That Daku got so touched, he was immediately disarmed psychologically. The violence in him, the aggression in him, the mechanicalness in him, and all the conditionings in him as though took a back seat. Nobody had called him an uncle so far in many years. No passenger through the jungle had said to him, "Uncle, can you tell me the road to my husband's village?" The uncle, this Daku, this violent person suddenly said, "Oh, my dear child, I will show you." And rather than taking her ornaments or anything else, he gave her some food, some fruits. He made some gifts to her, and then he led her to some extent, to some distance, to show how to go to Kamarpukur. That girl, Sharada, neither wanted to pretend as something, nor wanted to play some tricks on anybody, nor wanted to show herself as not fearing, etc. No such thing. Now, again, the examples always have some limitations, but examples do help in getting a glimpse of what we are trying to talk about. I would therefore say, at the almost winding up my words, psychological simplicity is not something that can be described in positive language. It is more described in the language of negation, where there is no sense of high or low, where there is no sense of I am a meritorious person, Punyatma, or I am a sinner, Papi. I am talented, I am head higher, I am brighter, and more than talent or wealth, etc. To think that I am a worthier person, worthier by caste or by gender or by qualification or memory, some memory of some 10 people praising me 10 years ago can influence me today and make me believe that I am incorruptible. I am the embodiment of honesty and truth and this and that. So, psychological complexity flourishes on the ground of such notions of the self. I am this, I am that. Whereas, if there is a silent mind, if for functional purposes one, of course, comes forward to say what one's domain of skills is, what one actually can do and what one cannot do. In a functional context, one neither shirks from possible service nor is aggressive to grab an opportunity and push others to the side, but leaving aside functional field, something that to be done in transactional context, inwardly, internally, if a person is not clinging to any particular description, it is seen that people subscribe to different traditions and they generally value somebody who is in that tradition. Somebody is high, another is low. But when it comes to another tradition, they look down at it, or the least is that the ranks and the positions may not mean anything to them. A Hindu may regard a Swamiji as higher, but he comes across a bishop or some mullah somewhere, he just turns his face away. And so with the Muslims. So these conditionings lead to certain assessment, judgment. Once I met somebody who had a PhD, and he said to me, "Please don't mistake me. I don't value this Swami and Bishop or this Mullah, etc. These ashrams have no business to give such titles to anybody." Then I gently asked, "That is nice, okay, that is fine. You don't have to look at any Swami or Mullah as any special person. But do you feel you are special because some university gave you a PhD?" He didn't like that. In fact, he began to argue. Universities' PhD is on a very scientific basis, whereas these ashrams make Tom, Dick, or Harry a Swami or a Mullah or a Maulana, etc., all on faith and unscientific basis. I just kept quiet. For today, especially, we know how PhDs are awarded in our country. There are so many PhDs whose merit is as questionable as there are, padris and swamis or others whose merit also is questionable. So, psychological simplicity takes note of certain titles, certain designations, certain ways in which a society may look at people. It takes note of it, but neither feels inferior or cowed down, nor feels superior or as though one is more worthy. So let me conclude saying the psychological simplicity of you and me is especially marked by absence of judgmentalism, absence of clinging to the past, absence of all ideas of high and low, and all of that boils down to a certain alert silence. Then we may be wearing some dress which is 20,000 rupees worth, or we might be wearing a dress which is just 150 rupees worth. That doesn't matter. That is all external stuff. Inwardly, if we are free from these ideas of high and low, worthy and unworthy, sinner and merited, that would constitute psychological simplicity, but that doesn't come by just by wishing for it. How that comes by would be another area. By simply learning descriptions of it, do we become psychological simple? That I request Harshad ji to throw some light on how someone may arrive at psychological simplicity if he can, or he may have some wonderful points to share from other angles of view. I, along with all of you, now look forward to hearing Harshad ji on this matter. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So can we open it for question and answer if you have to go earlier?
I will be here up to 7:15.
So,
So,
sir, let it be open for question and answer, and
all
then we
right.
will be listening. Yeah.
Okay, so 5 or 10 minutes, then we'll go to Harshad ji. Is that okay, Harshad ji? आप भी कहिए.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
fine,
Yeah.
fine, fine.
I have talked to him earlier also.
अच्छा अच्छा, आपने सबको समझाया है.
Dinesh Wagmare, please come forward.
प्लीज डू. या माइक ऑन कर लीजिए.
Dinesh Wagmare.
Sir, I want to ask whether this simplicity means innocence or what? Because uh, simplicity also means not complicated. So how the psychological state of a man can be uncomplicated? Because if we talk of simplicity, then there are so many factors involved.
हाँ,
Or if you have given examples, I would ask one example of Sri Krishna. How do we
yeah,
rate him? Is he psychologically simple or is he complicated?
yeah. Since I belong to the Hindu tradition, I would say Sri Krishna had psychological simplicity because we regard him as having the what they call, complete enlightenment. He was never in the shade of ignorance. Even when he did certain things which may make some ordinary man raise his eyebrows, we call it a certain leela, knowingly. So Sri Krishna of Mahabharata, being an avatar, Sri Rama, all of them had psychological simplicity because they had no ego. They had that awakened intelligence. I'm going by the traditional view. So whether people recognized it or not, they really had absolutely no ego. They felt one with all, and that came out clearly in their acts of compassion. But in certain other acts, people may have doubt. So both Ramayana and Mahabharata have a lot of material for debates. Why did Ram kill Vali from backside and such questions? So to your question, Sri Krishna had psychological simplicity because where there is total illumination, there cannot be psychological complications.
So in case of Gandhi also there was oneness was needed, a sort of.
I don't think Gandhi was totally illumined. Gandhi was deeply attached to certain conceptual, models. So for him, this non-violence and truth were concepts, and in the conceptual visualization, he went pretty high. because he wrote so much about what is truth, what is non-violence. But in a lot of his actions, since you raised the question, let me openly say why I myself am not as enthusiastic about Gandhiji as I was when I was in my 20s. The thing is, he was in conceptual, prison. He had some idea of equality, but he was not literally equal. He treated different cases differently. And then when people objected to that, there you said keep quiet, and now you are saying act. He said, I go by my inner voice. And that was never acceptable to critics of Gandhi. And if you see, I recommend that you see, if you have not already seen, the wonderful movie by K.A. Abbas. He was the director or something. The movie is called Gandhi, My Father. I cried twice while watching that movie at two places. Gandhi, My Father. There they show this M.K. Gandhi was so, you know, lacking in understanding. His son Haridas was given an earmarked donation. One Pranji Bai in Durban gives a donation specifically to Haridas to go to England and study. And Gandhi, in his love, in his obsession with some idealism, gives that money to another boy in the Phoenix ashram. And when Haridas asks, Bapu, Pranji uncle gave that for me. Why did you give it to that other boy? Gandhi said, for me, all of you are my children. That boy and you all, both are my sons, blah, blah. So that Gandhi's role also was played so well. It's not that we condemn him, but he did not have right perception. His perception was clouded by some kind of conceptual idealism. That is why on occasions he was much more accommodating towards Muslims, and much more fretting and fuming against Hindus. So there were many occasions. And moody, very moody Gandhi was. And people asked him about his moodiness. They said his inner voice. I go by inner voice, as the divine speaks to him. So no, so that is how he was not illumined. But he was
So,
way higher. You and I have salute him, because he had such sacrifice, such ability to stand by something he said, and so on. He was ready to give his life for his conceptual, ideal. He was an idealist. Gandhi was an idealist. Krishnaji strongly criticized idealism. You study Krishnaji and Vimla Thakar and others, they criticize idealism, because idealism, nails you down to a conceptual framework, whereas right perception frees you from any concept of this is right and that is wrong. Moment to moment, you see the situation and you act. And so there is a big difference between idealistic charm and perceptual clarity.
so innocence also you would add to this simplicity? Innocence
Yes,
of
I
mind?
would. I would, but I hope that innocence would not be misunderstood as some kind of naivety, some kind of lack of common sense, etc. True innocence is again freedom from judgmentalism. It is not lack of common sense. Whereas in the world outside, sometimes we call somebody innocent. If he lacking in common sense, it touches a live electric wire and gets a shock. Oh, this boy was innocent and so on. So that innocence is not of much value. But innocence, the word is acceptable, but we have to know that the innocence of true value is having knowledge, having common sense, having certain expertise in certain fields, but being free from pride, or low self-esteem, superiority complex, inferiority complex. When they are not there, there is a certain innocence. That innocence is goes well with psychological simplicity.
You
Thank you,
wanted
sir.
to ask some question. So would you please answer that, Durga Rani ji?
Durga Rani, please speak.
Hello.
Ah,
Good evening, Siddhanand ji. I'm Durga
Namaste.
here.
yes, namaste.
I wonder
Please.
if you remember me, sir. We met
Where?
in Naimishan and all that.
Oh, that rings a bell. Yes, yes. How are you? Yeah, we had met. Wait a minute. Are you not connected with some school?
I was
Where you
not
have?
connected, no, sir.
Okay, okay.
Like my
Then,
husband had conducted some medical camp and all that. We met on a couple of occasions, sir.
of course. And you were in Port Blair together.
Yeah, yes, sir.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
sir.
तो अभी भी पोर्ट ब्लेयर से बात कर रहे हैं या भारत के मेनलैंड से?
Yeah, Port Blair, sir. I'm calling from Port Blair only.
I thought so. Yeah, Dr. Gedela and you. Yeah. Once you said medical camp, everything became clear. Thank you. Glad to
Yes.
have you. Glad to have you amongst us, Durgaji.
Yes, sir. Yeah, so I am a, sir. It's good to hear your speech, your talk. Like, you have given like a lot of valuable points about some books and reference to some, books you have read and all that. Yes, sir. Sir, regarding this, inner simplicity, psychological simplicity, like one statement that is coming to my mind.
Yeah.
So he says, not to have an image of oneself.
Correct.
If you come into K terminology, K says the one who is not to have any image of oneself, one who is nothing, that is psychological, simplicity.
Right.
And I think whatever we talk about anybody, either it's quoting somebody is very good, bringing some examples of mainstream life, and talking about these things are very good. It brings a lot of clarity to us to make to fit in the things, in a particular form and give us some shape to all these things.
Yes.
If we go deeper into it, I think, like when you have spoken about Gandhi and his simplicity of his clothes and all, we remember Ramana Maharshi. There won't be any other simplest saint, sir. One who spent all his lifetime on a loincloth.
Correct.
And if you ask me, like, you are like very freely, and I have heard you also in many other occasions, you're referring to Krishna. Apparently, it seems your favorite god is Krishna,
No, not
but
really.
that's all history, isn't it, so, sir? We don't know whether he existed or not. That's all, what we read, what was written in the books. We formed an image about Krishna, isn't it, so, sir?
So true.
All the epics and all the gods, the goddesses, whatever they are,
correct.
They're all our own images, our own idealism, we put into them. That's what, though I'm also a, devotee to, I'm not an atheist, but I feel, the universal force is all around us, that very universe is a replica of the creator, because if we quote Rama and Krishna or anybody, that again is going into some kind of a mental mythology, is kind of a thing. You may be having some favorite god or goddess, that's okay. But that's what I want to contribute, sir.
Well, very well said. Very well said.
Yes,
said.
sir.
Therefore,
like if you,
yeah.
Yes, sir. And if you ask me, I think more than Gandhi or somebody, I feel Ramana Maharshi is all assumptions only, sir. These are all we are assuming. We are assuming, and according to us, each must be having their own opinions, their own assumptions, isn't it so?
Yes,
so Ramana Maharshi, when he talks and his way of life, there is no contradiction in him.
Correct.
I think that's one more point. Not to have contradiction at all. The way you think, the way you speak, the way you live. I feel that is simplicity. Not to have any contradictions whatsoever. Sir. So that is one thing I want to say, and that is when I was speaking to it, just occurred to me. Not to, and in the Krishnamurti language, we have to say not to have an image of oneself. That is the simplicity. But these are all, statements only. But each one has to examine themselves. So that's all I want to contribute to.
Wonderful, very, very well expressed, Durgaji. Very nice.
Yes.
Anand sir wanted to ask a question, sir. Anand.
But anyway, yeah. I enjoy your speech, sir.
Thank you.
Anand, please ask your question. Please.
माइक ऑन है क्या उनका? कुछ सुन नहीं पा रहे हैं. We are not able to hear you, sir. Your mic is not on. Kindly unmute yourself.
Okay. Sir, Anand sir, are you able to listen me?
I think he is not able to unmute himself.
Yeah, some problem with him.
वर्मा
तो-
वर्मा जी को कोई क्वेश्चन था जैन सर?
हाँ, why not? It's a pleasure.
तो
Verma
उनको
ji,
मैं
please,
unmute करता हूँ, पर वो
please. Verma ji,
I
please
have been
unmute
unmuted
yourself
now.
and ask.
I
Verma ji,
have been unmuted
no.
now.
oh,
Anand
okay.
ji has unmuted. Yeah.
No, I was unmuted, sir. So,
Yeah. After
okay.
Anand sir, Verma ji will ask. Okay.
So I have two simple questions, sir. I mean, first thing, can I understand my mind is very complex. So when I say I want to understand simple, it is simple is not easy, sir. I can give example of wearing simple clothes or etc., but that is not it. That is one. Second one is, how can disorder, which is me, understand that which is order, whoever it is? And the point is, we are discussing people, I mean, the so-called great people, or it is about myself, is a question. When I talk about quote somebody else, or I'm referring to somebody else, whether they existed or not, I'm not sure. Whether they were what I think they were, I'm not very sure. When I don't know myself,
Yes.
now, where is the need for me to talk about someone else? There is a question. That's about it.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very, very well. Yeah, therefore, though I mentioned a couple of names, I hasten to add, let us keep them all aside. Yeah, it's just as thought development, I brought in some names and requested us to, everybody to put aside. Yes, taking anybody as some more model for either the right way or the wrong way doesn't make sense. So we'll have to directly examine, be aware of the flow of thoughts. I agree with you. Personalities are an immature level. Discussion on personalities is an immature level. On a higher mature level, we don't discuss personalities. We discuss principles. We discuss, the nature of things.
Okay.
Yeah. Next is Verma ji. You said. सुशील जी आपका मोबाइल माइक अब ऑफ हो गया.
Pradeep Verma ji, sir. Sorry, I do it often. I have mistaken. Pradeep Verma ji first, and then Shankar Rao. He has put his question on the chat box. We can read that. First Verma ji, and then Verma ji, please unmute and ask. Verma ji, please unmute and ask.
अनम्यूट हो गए हैं.
हाँ, तो
वर्मा जी अनम्यूट हो गए हैं.
हाँ, तो let him ask the question,
वर्मा
please.
जी पूछिए.
I have no question, sir. I have no question. Whatever Chidananji has told, I have understood it pretty nicely. I have absolutely no question. Thank you very much.
ओके सर.
Shankar Rao. Shankar Rao. He has put some question on chat box.
Oh.
Is simplicity an idea? Is simplicity an idea? Please
Right.
respond.
Yeah, that's my question, sir. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful. Is simplicity an idea? That everyone has to examine, but you are right. Pretty much most of the times, not only simplicity, 1,000 things that we discuss are all ideas. However, for whom here it is an idea and for whom here it is a living thing, is not possible for us to know. That person should examine. Am I caught in an idea, or, in fact, just now before this class, somebody had sent to me and I read that piece by Krishnaji. Krishnaji says to someone, if somebody comes and tells you, you are hungry, I will give you some food. By his saying you are hungry, do you feel hunger? Or when you feel hungry, is that when you are hungry? Krishna ji asked, and in that he exactly answers your question. To read about hunger or to be told by somebody you are hungry, come and have lunch, is an idea. Whereas when we are hungry, actually hungry, then it is a directly perceived thing. So, to answer you in one sentence, simplicity is an idea most of the time for most of us, and so on. But there are insights that you and I come upon. Suddenly, at an unexpected moment, we see, this I think is simplicity. With or without those words, we experience in our heart, because it is kind of unburdening ourselves of all ideas and concepts. So most of the time, words, delude us. Words are a big screen, therefore they are a smoke screen, and they prevent the perception of the actual. So over
Can
to
I,
Harshadji now.
one last
Some.
point, sir.
Uh-huh.
One. So when I say I'm simple, sir, can I see that I continue in that complexity?
Of course. That is like somebody said, you see, among all my 8 brothers, I am the humblest person. The moment he said, I am the humblest and I have the least ego, that itself was what they call a contradiction in terms. In Sanskrit, we have an expression, Vadato Vyaghataha. A man, I believe, stood up and said loudly, dear friends, do you know I am dumb? Do you know I am dumb? मैं मूक हूँ आप क्या जानते हैं क्या that's called vadato vyagata. Even as he says I am dumb, that contradicts his statement. So yeah, the moment we get an idea, I think nowadays I am pretty much simple, huh? Gone. Psychological simplicity has gone out of the window.
Harshad Parikh sir, should we
Yeah,
request Harshad Parikh sir to
Yeah,
continue?
yeah, let us do so.
Parikh sir, please go on.
yeah. Thank you, Swami Chidanandji. You have spoken very clearly. And one thing you asked is about how can one can become simple. So what I feel is that when we are very, very curious and very attentive to what is happening in our own mind, and we can see it very clearly, not through words, but through freedom at the beginning, then I think this conflict which arises normally when people have some idea or ideal, like Gandhiji, non-violent ideal, then when then it creates conflict and duality. But if we can really see ourselves as we are through this choiceless awareness, what Krishna ji is saying, then there is no conflict. It is just what is. There is no what should be. So that makes life really very, very simple without much conflict within oneself or with people. And uh, this thing is to be done non-verbally, but when we speak, whether about Krishna ji or about Gandhi ji or about ourselves, then people will ask many questions. Like sometimes if I say something about Kabir, then people will say, why do you bring Kabir? Why don't you speak about yourself? And when I speak about myself, then we'll say, you are very proud and you are remembering something which happened to you. So these problems will come conflict when we use words and when we speak. But the real spirituality is non-verbal. That means looking without the word, what is unfolding within ourselves moment by moment. And then uh, that simplicity comes. Then even when somebody says something very unpleasant to you, then you don't react and you see whether what the person is saying is correct or not. So that kind of understanding to see the true as true and the false as false, that is a real understanding, simplicity. And the word innocent, the root meaning of the word innocent is someone who doesn't get hurt psychologically when somebody is saying something unpleasant or insults. So that state of innocence uh, comes when we are looking at what is as it is. So even if the anger or something coming, one can look at it. And that faculty is different than thinking. It is coming out from the dimension of thinking and looking at thinking as it is arising. And that is what Krishnaji's teachings are, I understand, is this choiceless awareness. And if I want to say something about Kabir, Kabir was simple in his externally and internally also. So even, and he was free from fear and he spoke what he felt exactly. He did not care whether he was hurting pandits or mullahs, and they were all very upset with him, and they complained to the king, Ibrahim Lodi, and Ibrahim Lodi came to kill Kabir with a sword in his hand, and he asked Kabir, "Do you believe in Islam or not?" And Kabir was very simple. He was not frightened. He said, "Yes, I believe in Islam, but do you know what Islam is?" And he said, "If you know what Islam is, tell me what is correct, Shia or Sunni or Sufi." So the emperor was very pleased to listen to Kabir because Kabir was not afraid. And that kind of courage comes in people when they don't have any fear and they are very simple and they speak exactly what they feel. They don't want to hurt anybody, but sometimes people do get hurt. Even Buddha was very gentle, but Brahmins were hurt because they did not want to listen to when Buddha talked about that anybody can come into spiritual life. It doesn't need to be Brahmin, any caste. So he was accepting people of very different castes. And so Brahmins were unhappy. So it is not possible for a human being to not upset, even when the person is very clear, he is very gentle, he doesn't want to hurt anybody, but people will get hurt. And what Kabir was saying, people were getting hurt also. And about Mirabai also, I would like to say, though we don't need to give all these examples, but Mirabai wanted to see one great saint, and the saint was not ready to see a woman. And when Mirabai came to know, then she said, "You have this image of man and woman, so how you can consider yourself to be a free human being?" So yes, what somebody said, that freedom from image making, that is the real simplicity. And I think I have said enough. And anybody like to ask question to Chidanandji or anyone? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, should we ask Milind More to say something? Then the question answer. Let Milind More sir say something for some time. Milind More sir, would you please?
Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, I am the yes. I have just unmuted. Can you hear me? Am I audible?
Yes.
Yes.
Now we can.
Yes.
Now we can.
Thank you. Thank you. So it's first of all, thank you, Swami Chidanji, Harshadji, and in fact, it was interesting to listen to what Anandji also said. So I would just take 1 or 2 minutes to just connect a few things which I thought kind of immediately caught my attention. One was the aspect of negation, which Swamiji talked about, that a subject like simplicity perhaps cannot be understood in a positive sense, and a certain way of seeing it in a negative way helps. And I see that in my own experience. And what Anandji said in particular was about, isn't it important to understand complexity and the disorders that are there in one's life? And I kind of quite ring my understanding with that, in the sense that what I see as a fact is only complexity in my life, like complexity in the sense of, I see the urge to become, I see the urge in people to be successful, to give importance to, status, power, money, position, and all that it brings with it. That is a fact and the complexity of life. I also see the division around me in terms of the various isms which are there, whether it is nationalism or religion, caste, color, creed, or whatever. I also see the reflection of that in my daily life in terms of the fear, the violence that I see, the anxiety that I see in my life. So it becomes, I think, as a fact, it is more important for me to understand the complexity, and perhaps in understanding the complexity lies simplicity. So I think in that sense, what Anandji said was quite important. And what Harshadji said about being free of image also is important in the sense that while dealing with complexities of life, I think a stage comes where one has to come face to face or face to face with this aspect of images that we form around, and how the image formation leads to the various aspects in a relationship, which I just mentioned some time back. So in that sense, simplicity and I think passive awareness, which is what Harshadji is trying to say, the way I understood, simplicity and passive awareness seem to me as companions. And also I see in my life, I'm talking about the complexity as such, is that thinking can only take you to a certain distance. If I analyze as to why religion is or why caste is or why differences which it brings, the has limitations. Go to a certain distance, one needs to touch. It can only take you to a certain distance. Beyond that, it is not of mind. Something which is planned, like if I say planned simplicity, is only a matter of, I think, cleverness and maybe cunningness. It has to be looked at in a different way. And maybe lastly, I would like to end with, I would be happy to rather end with what Krishnji talked about, that happy is a man who is nothing. It is something which I find very profound. And I find, yes, it makes sense if one is really serious about finding the meaning behind this statement. I think I'll end with that, saying that happy is a man who is nothing. That's all. Thank you.
Sir, can I ask a question to Milind More?
Yeah.
Can you understand simplicity in terms of opposites? Because something is simple to you and something is that is complex for me. So can it be understood in the terms of opposites, or one has to raise above simplicity and understand complexity and simplicity, and then he has to raise above himself of all this?
Sir, I'm sorry. Actually, you were. I mean, your voice was not very clear, so I have not got the question. But maybe I would request Harshadji or Swami Chidanandji to take on the question, because I have not been able to hear it properly.
Yeah. Swamiji,
Harshadji, no, Harshadji may please answer. Can we
Okay.
think of opposites?
Yes. Yeah, one can feel sometimes very lightness, that there is no problem, everything is so clear, beautiful, and but life is not like that. Every moment is different. So only an ongoing, effortless awareness reveals whatever is arising. There may be complexity there arising, but there is a possibility in us to look at it. So as long as we are living only in the dimension of thinking, then we cannot see the whole thing, what thinking is doing. But when we come out of it, and then we can look at thinking very clearly, and then even if anger is arising or some unpleasant reactions are arising, it is possible to see. That is what I feel. And sometimes we may not be able to see, and then we get carried away and we become angry, and then later on we realize it. So life is lived from moment to moment, and one can never say that one is free. Like Rajesh Dalal, my friend, we had many dialogues, very challenging dialogue with each other in Rishi Valley in 1980s. And he was asking always this question to me. He said, "Are you free?" So I said, in the present moment, yes, I am free, but I can't say anything about future which has not come. So only one can talk about the present moment, and there is nothing like freedom forever, I feel. Any moment something can happen, to some injury, accident, disease, and it can change, it can affect the mind. So we don't know. We can live only in the present moment and can see clearly, and that also, that clarity may go away sometimes. But again, it may come back. So it all depends on how curious, how passionate, how honest we are at looking at ourselves. Because by looking at other people and gathering a lot of knowledge about the external world, it will not help much. That's what I feel. There is a world which is inside us. And if we are really interested in that, it can reveal a lot about ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Yes, Jain sir.
Is there any question more?
Yes, sir. For Chidanandji, I have a question.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, sure,
Sir, I mean, Gandhiji was a freedom fighter, sir. He was a great person. He got independence for us, millions of people. I mean, he fought for us through whatever means he thought was the right way of doing it. I don't find, why do I have to compare, make him a saint or something like that and compare him to, I'm just using the word saint, or compare him with Krishnamurti or Rama or Krishna. Why do I have to do that is my question, sir.
Whether you accept it or you object to it. Lot of people do this. They would like to look at a personality. In fact, they do it all the time with Krishnaji. They are taking Krishnaji's examples. You know, Krishnaji once did this, Krishnaji once did that, Krishnaji sat, Krishnaji stood. So, okay, I'm not trying to avoid answering your question. Really speaking, there is no need to take any particular person's example. But as I used the words, in a thought development, we sometimes in a passing manner refer to a person and then say, let us forget him now. So it is in a passing manner. You know, it's a digression. And yeah, if the audience is truly very mature, it would be always good to completely avoid any reference to any personality. So is the case with jokes, so is the case with examples, so is the case with stories, so is the case with music and dance. Krishnaji used to say, look at these gurus, they are entertaining their audience with music and dance. That's so true.
True, sir. And how do we understand the word freedom, sir, when I have certain likes and dislikes? Can I observe that is the question? The moment I like something or dislike something, I'm not free. I speak about freedom, but do I understand that is the question?
Yeah. So that's the hardest part. Moment we entertain the question, how do I come out of this dislike? That question, how do I come out of dislike, itself takes us away from observing the dislike. I think you and I have been studying all this wonderful literature, and then we do get insights how we are jeopardizing, or how we, that we begin to understand, but then when we bring how and why, and as you also said in a previous question, we jump from one to its opposite. And then it's a slippery ground. Once we go to simplicity and its opposite, and how to get simple and so on, we then lose the right perception. Therefore, I think we need to carefully negate or keep away from personalities, from concepts, from finding out a method and step one, step two. One of these generally makes us, what you call it, makes us get derailed. So you are right. All of us have our likes and dislikes. Even in a discussion, somebody says we like it and somebody else says something else. We almost make a face. Oh, this person again is talking about this and so on. So likes and dislikes are ruling our life. Yeah, it's a tightrope walk. To tackle them, to look at them without slipping into one of those standard derailments is the challenge. हर्षद जी, आप कुछ कहना चाहेंगे?
Yeah. How do we listen to Krishnamurti or to somebody else or to our own self? Now, when suppose I ask a question, how can I be free from likes and dislikes? And it is really a genuine question. Then I feel that my mind will really stop. And then it will start looking non-verbally at whatever is unfolding in the mind. And it seems to me that as long as we have not asked the fundamental question, which Krishnaji also asking, and Raman Maharshi also, who am I? That means from where do these thoughts come? And to look at the source, because from thinking all these likes, dislikes, conditioning, images, all that is coming from previous knowledge. And to look at it, the arising of image or likes or dislike, it requires the freedom to see. And that's why Krishnaji says, freedom is at the beginning. So as long as we have not come to that state of looking without words, without thinking, all these questions will keep on coming. And until we die, we will be asking questions. But when there is a real looking, there is not much questioning. There is only seeing whatever is unfolding. And in that, there is great beauty, what I feel. I'm speaking from myself, okay? But not in an egoistic way. But I can say that for human beings, it is possible to come out and look with freedom at what this thinking is doing, how these thoughts are arising. And one can discover many beautiful things, that one can discover that we are not isolated human beings. Our mind is connected with the minds of many, many people. And sometimes something comes from outside. So this one can discover that we are not isolated human beings, and everything is interconnected, affecting each other. And that is what we can discover by looking non-verbally, everything what is happening within us. Thank you.
But I would say, sir, I do that exactly the same thing. I look at some beautiful sunset. I enjoy that. Okay, I don't verbalize it. All right. I have a great life. I have a lovely life. But at the same time, there are also the conflicts arise, confrontations are there. I observe that also. The moment I say this is what it is not that. That is what I'm saying. Something cannot put in words. The moment I put in words, it is not that. So I may be observing it, somebody may not be observing, that's a different question. But when I say that freedom is at the beginning, I observe the moment I like the sunset, there is no freedom in it.
Yes. Yes. So
the ugly thing, there is no freedom there. So the freedom at the beginning, the moment I say, how do I understand that is a question, sir?
Yes.
By verbalizing and convincing myself every time I get that's my question.
Okay. Yes. So one cannot get freedom by trying to be free. But it can happen when we are really deeply, passionately interested in, without any motive, to look at ourselves. Because this motive, it will distort what we see. So as you say, you can look at the sun, sunset or sunrise or a flower. In the same way, can it look inside and see whatever these thoughts are arising and not judging it? That is the freedom. That's what I would say.
The point is, sir, I'm judging it, isn't it? When I say that is ugly, immediately I've judged that. That's what I'm saying. I verbalize it. I say, yes, freedom is at the beginning. That's great. I observe things. Lovely. I mean, there's so many beautiful things on this planet.
Yeah.
The moment I verbalize that as beautiful, can I see there is no freedom?
Yeah. Yes. When you want to express what you feel to somebody else, then you use the word. As Krishnaji also used words, beautiful sunset or flower or human being, and he wrote about it. So in expression is not a problem. Just because a person uses words, it doesn't mean that there is no real freedom. Words can come out of freedom too. And such words do affect people.
So the difference, what I see, when a woman walking with carrying a load on her head, I mean, Krishnamurti watched. There was, you know, the observer what you observed.
Yeah.
All right. He felt that weight.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen with me. Like the other day, I mean, Professor Krishna gave an example. Somebody from cycle fell down. I mean, I go lift him up. He said, that's compassion. No, I didn't want to question him, sir. But is that compassion? It could be empathy, sympathy, or it is just that, you know, doing a good deed. I want to do a good deed. So the moment I say it's compassion, I cannot go further, sir. So that is what it is. There was, at the Niagara Falls, a family had gone there and a small child bent over and she slipped and fell into Niagara Falls. The person next to her immediately dived after her. Both of them died. All right. There, it is not the question whether you should do it or not. There was an action. That's about all. Good or bad is out of question. I mean, when I say it acts, like compassion acts, if the moment I judge it good or bad, that man was a stupid man. He was nowhere connected with the child. Why did he have to jump or whatever it is? I mean, then I'm lost. That's precisely what I'm saying.
Yes. So Krishnaji not only looked at the woman carrying the burden, but he felt that he was the
He felt
woman.
it.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it is something which is subjective, and we want to achieve such thing. It means we are comparing and we have a desire.
Yes, sir. So coming to my point, sir, when I see cruelty out there, okay, there is that kind of a pain in here. I'm just putting it in words. Now, people can question that. That is all I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if I tell you this is what happens, I'm back to my conditioning.
Yes.
I can share it. I can share it. I mean, you can take it, you can throw it into the dustbin. That's a different issue. Over, sir. That's about all.
May I request Chhabda sir to say something? Vijay Chhabda sir, would you please say something? Vijay Chhabda sir. Explanation of anger is easier, but expression of anger is very difficult. You can explain things, but you cannot express.
What I feel in this discussion.
Sir, Wagmare sir, I have requested sir, Chhabda sir, would you let him complete that say, and then you can continue.
Sir, I'm trying to unmute him, but he is not able to unmute himself. Sir, Chhabda sir, please unmute him.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Please go ahead, Chhabda sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. We are hearing.
Because see, the instrument was somewhere else, and I was with my earphone, Bluetooth, so that I can also walk. Yeah. So what is it? What is it? Is there a specific question? I mean, I heard, and there's a, so is there something, some specific point that you would?
Simplicity. Nothing
Psychology.
complicated. Simplicity. Simplicity
Psychology.
in psychology. No complication.
So the question is nothing complicated. It's just simplicity, right?
Simplicity in psychology.
See, what was going through my mind was that, all kinds of things happen. In fact, Anandji's point that freedom at the beginning, I think if looking at things, even all my, whatever it is, we call it complexity, but the phenomenon, there is something happening, or there may be many things happening together, and we call it complex. So the moment we name it, I think simplicity is gone. So so that's where the freedom at the beginning is so crucial. Can you look at all that, all the problems, all the complexity, or whatever you call it, and all the jumble bumble, and the confusion. So what are the emotions, whether it's one set of emotion or a complexity of emotions, complex of emotions? But there is always this, the only way to connect is to look at it simply, within freedom. So if there is no freedom, then I'm part of it. So it's just going, the other day somebody was giving example of cat. I think Professor Krishna was giving example of cat at the, playing with its tail. So going round and round and round, or maybe Harshad Parekh mentioned that. So then, so that's what happens. But but freedom is essential, and that means if I'm not free, so can I look at that? That okay, I'm at
Lost voice.
the moment I'm, so I think it's a very dynamic thing. So never to be caught up at any point. Just see, okay, whatever is. If you're not fighting with whatever is, there's no issue at any point of time, right? That's all I would say.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Thank you. Parekh sir, please conclude. 4 minutes
Okay.
are left.
Okay, I have said most of the thing which I wanted to say. I would say that psychological simplicity, it means freedom. Freedom to look at the thing which is outside, or the thing which is unfolding within oneself. And in that, there is no naming, just looking. And that is a real great beauty in looking without naming, not even naming the inner feelings like anger or jealousy, but just looking. And but that requires the freedom. Freedom. Without that, we will get caught into naming and then saying that I am not free and all that which comes. So when there is no competition, comparison with any other Krishnamurti or any other person, we are just curious to look within ourselves, what is happening. Then, and it is not something momentary, but it can go on day after day. And we are passionate. And if this way of looking is making our life simpler, it reducing the conflict within oneself and with the society, then we get more energy to look. And so it is like a cycle is set up that whatever you do, it helping you. So maybe then comes a power of positive attitude comes out of that. And so we don't talk so much about what is happening in the world. Yeah, there is a lot of violence and killing, and to animals, to human beings, all is there. But then there are also many people who are very good. I have seen many videos where people are helping other people, and even they are rescuing animals which are trapped. So there is a compassion also there in people who don't know anything about philosophy, but they feel kind of love feelings for animals. So it is not a verbal thing. It comes when there is, I would say, when there is a freedom, all this thing comes to help people without expecting anything in return like that. So that is what real love and beauty what Krishna ji is talking about, which is a freedom, which is a, and all this exists within us if we are really deeply interested without motive, out of curiosity. And many people have discovered such a thing. And Krishnamurti is talking that choiceless awareness, a motiveless, ongoing, choiceless awareness. That is what he said. Thank you very much.
So,
Thanks,
but
sir.
people,
Thank you.
most of the people who are helping out there, sir, they're doing for a motive. A Christian, he wants to be a good Christian, so he does a lot of service, helps a lot of people, donates a lot of, gives a lot of charity and things like that. How do I understand that is a question? Like Kay says, like there is no cause. The universe has got no cause. The moment I have a cause, I'm caught in it.
Yeah.
And he talks about I am the world and the world is me. I'm not talking about the other person there. We are having a dialogue, you and me. It is about you and me, not the other people who are doing a lot of good work. The moment I say that, I've completely, there's a 180-degree change, isn't it so, sir? That's
Sir,
all I'm
Durga
saying.
Rani wanted to say something. And then Wagmare last. Durga Rani.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah, like in sync with Mr. Like Harish Harshad Parikh's views. Yes, sir. Like all the points, like appropriate point, like whatever. When we call up psychological simplicity, I just would like to add on to a few points, of my understanding of the books and all. So many a times, Krishnamurti is saying, in his discussions also, he says, "Be simple, sir." Many a times we heard this statement coming from him. So, don't make things into too complicated. If you are like that, be like that, rather than, why I'm not like this, why like this, just be and see what happens. And whatever that comes into your mind, remain with that. Rather than, why I'm not like this, I'm like this, all that kind of stuff. And regarding one more thing, I just would like to add, when we read his commentaries on living and all, and he mentions, whenever he looks at the gardeners, I know the people, the simple workers, the workers who are working in the farms, the gardeners and all, and he says, there's a kind of dignity in them, like their minds are not so complex, they just know what they have and they just know how to live, go by with that, they just don't end up in all these psychological issues of why I'm not like this, why I'm not like that, and all that. So we find him appreciating them. Those people, the gardeners or, the simple workers in the fields or, so we could gather that, the people who live simple lives. So maybe we are complicating things too far away. Okay, if I'm not like that, if I am like this, so what? So be like that, So rather than bringing all the mumbo jumbo and making myself unhappy and keep on struggling with that, so let me see where does it take, that kind of attitude. Maybe that's a part of simplicity. I just would like to add that much, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Wagmare, please make it simple. Don't complicate
Yes,
it.
sir.
Say something.
Yes. I
Yes.
think
The
what
request-
it is also related to Mr. Anand's dialogue. Any
Yeah.
movement of thought with the help of instrument, intellect as instrument, will be always the movement with the fragments. And when you are dealing with the fragments, always there will be some complexity arising out of them. What do you have to say, Harshad Parikh, sir?
Intelligence will solve it. Intelligence is above intellect.
If you are having that intelligence, then yeah.
Sir, Harshad Parikh, sir.
Intelligence can solve it, but not intellect.
Would you please conclude, sir? Harshad Parikh, sir. Time 7:34. Sir. Within a minute, please conclude, sir.
This intelligence or freedom or awareness, it's in a different dimension than thinking, intellect. Intellect is full of thinking and asking and trying to understand. But intelligence sees things non-verbally. And so that is a different dimension. And that is what Krishnaji is talking about, awakening of intelligence or awareness, choiceless awareness, motiveless. So through discussion, we will not get all these things, I feel. It requires a passion in daily life, every moment, and wherever something is coming, ability to look at it without naming it. So that is intelligence. Okay, I finish.
So the
Thank
point
you very
is
much,
just
sir. Thank you.
so the-
Thank you very much, sir. Sir, please let it be finished now. But in the next Thursday, Arshad Parekh again come and we will be discussing all these things. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
sir. I will only like to say that we are really thankful to Arshad Parekh sir for
Okay.
all this
For all the
dialogue.
three,
Because
all the three. Okay, Tirumurti
all
hai.
the three, yes, of course,
Yeah, all the three.
Chidananji also
And
and
they have gone
More,
simply,
Mr. More
simply
also.
without making noise. With simplicity, they have gone out. So we are thankful to them.
Yeah.
And without making any complication, we again invite all the three for the next Thursday meeting.
Okay.
Thank you very much, Wagmare.
Because
Thank
this
you
is
very much,
this is
Anand sir.
enriching our life. Yes,
Okay.
it's a really good
Enriching,
dialogue.
enhancing our
Thank you,
life,
sir. Thank you.
definitely,
Thank you.
but not making complicated life, please. So we have to look into it. Thank you.
Okay, sir.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks to everybody. Thanks to everybody.
Thanks to
And
everybody
make
for
it simply close it, not complicated closure.